Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Phoenix, Arizona on KXXT Family Values Radio. I also want to welcome our online audience on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I want to give a big shout out to Beyond Fear to Freedom, one of the best Christ-centered fellowships that provide a safe and loving community for women in recovery. Just check out their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org, and you'll see their Friday nights. If you're not doing anything Friday night, you need to attend that. This is hot. Food and fellowship at 5:30. The actual meeting starts at 6:15. They have the meeting for guys, they have the meeting for gals, and childcare is provided. So if you're not doing anything Friday night, hop out to their website, get the address of the facility and all that. It'll be really something you should see, because if you have problems, if you're just struggling, these gals are golden. Listen, if you want to write Steve Savant, please feel free to do so on my email address, steve@180uturn.com. That's steve@180youturn.com. Happy to answer your messages and emails all the time. Keep the doctrine and theology. I don't know. I don't care. So, I guess I care, but I guess I don't care that much. Okay.
Yeah, I want to explain it.
Yes, I don't want to have to explain it. So, remember, my past was I was a financial guy. I wasn't a seminary student. So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome. We're back with Raygen for day 3, right?
Yeah.
And I have to say, the superlatives are going to run short, because I've never seen a guy that wants to do dope 24/7 at the exclusion of every other area of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, have I exaggerated that?
No, not at all.
Okay, so I'm a little taken back that, your children, everything's we're not even talking second place.
No, yeah, it's one of those things where there was really no second place. Like, everything went below my kids. Mm-hmm. Getting high. So, here's getting high. And then everything else is not just the next notch, but everything else is a couple notches below.
Were you conscious how immoral that was?
To be honest with you, I stayed high as much as I possibly could. I was the type of person that I would get meth, and I would do meth as long as I possibly could for as many days as I could. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't sleep. I would sometimes forget to use the bathroom for 12 to 14 hours a day. I would be sitting there like cramps, and I'd go, I need to go. I haven't peed all day. I should go pee. I would use so much. I would use drugs, and then I would go and go and go until I just fell over and passed out, and then I would wake up and be like, okay, and I'd eat something, and then I'd just start getting high again. So I would sleep maybe 4 or 5 times a month. I would just go for 5-6 days, pass out, wake up, sleep for a day, wake up, eat, go for 4 or 5, 6 days, pass out, wake up, and that's the way I lived.
Even eating took a second place.
No, because eating took away the high.
Right.
So I would only eat after I had passed out and woke up, and I would eat right before I went to go get high. And the only reason why I would do that is because I knew it helped me feel better a little bit, so I could get high better.
I would say that kind of lifestyle. It's just usually you do this for recreation and for fun, not your life.
Yeah, my life had completely evolved and revolved around doing meth. Completely. I had, like I said, I had a car, and then at one point, I can't remember what happened, but I lost my car, and it was gone, and so then now I'm on a bicycle, and I'm just basically, and I'm there for a while. I was making it and stealing stuff and really good at it, but as I started to use drugs more and more, life just started to fall apart. I wasn't even good at stealing anymore. I wasn't good at doing anything. So I literally had a backpack and a bicycle, and I would steal little things and get just enough drugs to get high. And then it got really bad at one point. It was I don't know if you guys have ever been to Oklahoma, but in Oklahoma during the winter, it just snows and ices from January, February. It's just right now, it's 12, 25 degrees right there right now. But at one point, I found myself on a bike in the snow with a backpack, and I had to have a place to live. So I was like, I'll just go steal a tent and I'll live, out in the whatever. So I go to this place. I can tell you where it's at because I don't think they can get me now. But I went to this place called Academy.
Well, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know.
I went to the sports store, right? And I go to steal a tent, and I go in, and I'm just looking wild. And I've just got this plan, I'm going to walk in all casual, smooth, and just steal this tent and leave. And I probably came in just like a hot rock and probably looked wild. And then I grab a tent, I run out, they don't stop me. I get on the bike, I pedal off. I think, man, I just pulled the heist of the century. I got a place to live. I get to this golf course is where I'm going to stay because it's closed during the winter. And I get this tent out, and I start unpacking it. I tell you how bad life had gotten for me. I stole a tent for a dog. It was a large dog, but it's one of those, so it looks like a normal human tent, but it's 3 foot by 3 foot and only 3 foot high. So I stole this little tent, and that's what I lived in for a month and a half on a golf course in the winter in the snow.
With no heat.
With no, so I stole someone's propane tank and put like a propane heater attached to it, and I would aim it towards the tent, but I couldn't get it really close because it would melt the tent. So yeah, so I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. I was doing drugs every day, stealing just enough to get high, pedaling around on a bike in the middle of the snow. I was a pathetic person at that point.
I have to say, when the human debauchery has no real basement, does it?
Yeah, no. Just when you think you've reached like the lowest you can possibly go, you'll find another low level for yourself every time.
Well, now you're starting to go to jail now.
Got arrested. First time I ever got arrested.
And you were how old?
I think I was like 28, 29, 30, somewhere in there. Cop rolled up on me. I was at I think I was at a pool hall, really places where no one that does drugs hangs out of. So I was at a pool hall. Cop rolls up on me, starts talking to me. He says, "Can I see your ID?" I give him my ID, and he looks at it, and he goes, "Huh, Mitchell." He goes, "Do you know a guy named Dickie Mitchell?" And I went, "That's my dad." And he goes, "Where's the dope?" Just right out,
just like that.
Just shifted gears and goes, "Where's the dope?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he goes, "You mean to tell me that your dad is Dickie Mitchell and you don't know where the dope is?" He goes, "You have dope on you. I know you do. Just go ahead and give it to me." You're going, and that's the first time I went to jail. And so now I'm in the system. And I'm also, everyone knows in the system, like in the notes, because cops make great notes, and everyone knows that my dad and my brother, and I'm associated with everyone that does drugs. So every time a cop saw me and ran my ID, the first question they asked is, "Where's the drugs?" And they would take me in and they would search me and they would find drugs and I would go to jail.
So you're going in and out of jail in Oklahoma.
Yep.
And finally, you did something that brought you into 40 months in prison.
Yeah, so I spent basically about 3-4 years just churning, right? Going in and out. I finally, they'll call it like got my number. So basically I didn't really go to prison right away. They basically give you a number, they put you in, you go through processing, and then they kick you out. So now you have a prison number. And then from there, things started escalating. I went back to jail again, did like 3 months in jail, like 90 days, and then got out.
With no meth in jail.
Yeah. Jail was, sometimes you'd have some meth, sometimes you wouldn't, just depended.
Yeah, somebody's muling this stuff in.
Well, sometimes I would mule it in if I had a forewarning I was about to get caught.
Well, I guess you were a popular guy in jail.
No, I wouldn't tell anybody because it was all mine. I wasn't trying to. So I finally.
We are at self-centeredness at a level I haven't heard in a long time.
I'm telling you, I everything revolved around me getting high, and if that meant that I had whatever I had to do. It just, tell you, to be honest with you, it was just, I had completely given up on everything else. So you're right. So I finally went to jail. I had gotten my number and gotten kicked out and was supposed to report to a PO and was given 5 years on paper, is what they call it. And I got released and never reported to my PO. 3.5 years later, they finally caught me, and they were a little upset by that. And so I remember being in an elevator going up to the jail or going up to the courthouse next to this really big guy, and the bailiff goes, he's like, "Hey, who are you here for?" And he goes, "I don't know, this Raygen, I don't know how to say his name." And I was like, "Raygen?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "That's me." And he goes, I'm your PO. I've never met you. You're going to jail." And he's like, and he goes, I hope you like prison. That's where you're headed. And so I got 5 years. One of them was an escape. And so, because when you don't report to a PO, they give you absconding. Absconding is an escape charge. And so I went in and I did 42 months of that. Was at a minimum, luckily, but I got there and it was like a high school reunion. So like I'd never been to prison. I'll be honest with you, I was a little worried about going to prison because you hear stories. My dad told me horror stories about prison, and I get there. I get put on this minimum yard. You come in the middle of the night because they try and do movement in the middle of the night. I wake up the next morning, get out on the yard. There's like 618 people in the yard, and I'm not joking. I knew 350 of them from the get. I was like, so this is where all my friends went. You're all in prison. Oh. So I was like, it felt like home. Like it felt comfortable. And that's what scared me the most about prison, was it felt like something I could do for a long time. I just slid right in. Yeah,
the fraternity.
Yeah, the fraternity.
In prison. Yeah. I mean, basically.
I was set up from the beginning. I had friends there. I had family in prison. It just felt I had like-minded people. I was, my brother was associated with a lot of the Aryans. My dad knew a lot of Aryans, and so I was.
And this is still in Oklahoma.
Yep, still in Oklahoma.
All right, so in your situation, you're doing about, like I said, 40 months of actual time.
About 3 years, yeah.
And now you actually have equated it, since you have so many friends in here, and everybody is so like-minded, and it's a kindred spirit, basically.
Right.
You could do 40 months is nothing.
Yeah, no, I could do that. Like, as I say, I could do that standing on my head. So it's one of those things where and I had other charges hanging over me that I was trying to get taken care of while I was in prison. But Oklahoma County, which is where I was arrested in, they didn't really want to take care of those charges right away. They were completely fine with me serving this first sentence and then getting released and having to deal with these other charges. Because what that would do is that would give me 3 methamphetamine charges in their county in a row, which in Oklahoma they had a 3-strike rule. So it didn't matter if you wrote 3 hot checks, you could get 25 years to life because they just wanted to get you out. So I was getting out of prison, and that's what I did, is I ended up going back to county to get more time.
I'm always amazed of going down in Arizona to the return to custody yard.
Dude,
unbelievable. Yeah, people there, all they have to do is show up and tag with the PO, and they're be golden.
It's the hardest thing to do.
And they can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, when I think about going down there and these guys are in there, and I mean, there's people there that are from all walks of life.
Yeah.
We're trying to do our time, and we won't even check in with the PO who's trying to help us.
Yeah.
See, that to me is where it gets dark. Listen, we come back from the break, we're going to continue with Raygen's heavy story. I mean, it's just, I hate it, but then we'll get into the good part of the story tomorrow. We'll be right back, right after this message.
You know the road to recovery can be difficult, but you don't have to travel it alone.
This is the transfer to Arizona, to an Arizona prison, or you were already done with
No, I was done. I came here
How they broke the destructive cycles in their lives by the power of God and moved on to a new life in Christ. For more information about Friday nights, just go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. If you can't get to BFF on Friday nights, or you don't live in the Phoenix area, you can stay connected by joining BFF's Subscribe Tribe, where you receive their weekly study guide, so you can track with them online. Just sign up today on BFF's website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And don't forget to listen to BFF's weekly video podcast with Debbie G and Sheridan. Their own life experiences and their biblical influence will overhaul your thinking, your identity, and your future. They'll keep you encouraged with some great insight and biblical truth. Just friend them on Facebook or go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. BFF, where you might just discover the best friend forever.
Well, welcome back. All this week we're talking to Raygen Mitchell. What a testimony, and I've never heard such a dominance. I know people are dominated by dope, but that you're living 24/7 at the exclusion of every single other activity that mankind has ever invented. So I mean, it's like except checking out God.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you're doing time, ever go to chapel?
No, I thought, to be honest with you, just being real with you, I always thought that people that hid behind the Bible were weak. That's why they hid behind the Bible. So they would be locked up and they'd hide behind the Bible because, you can't beat up a guy who is hid behind the Bible, because then what do you look like if you're beating up on a Jesus freak or whatever? So I would always think that those people were weak, that they were dumb. I always thought people that believed in a God, because why would you believe in a God? Because I mean, like, if God was real, I would go straight. If God was real, then why would He let all these things happen to me? Why would He let my life be the way it is? Why would He punish? So I would always go to that place. And so when I was locked up, I think the only time I ever went was one time when I was locked up in county jail. I wanted to get out of my cell. I hadn't been out of my cell in like 2 weeks, and they were like, well, you can't get out of your cell, but if you want to go to chapel, you can get out. And so I was like, all right, I'll go to chapel. And then it was a Baptist guy, and I just remember going in and he sat down and he just grabbed my hands, and I was like, and he's like, do you believe that Jesus is this? And I was just like, no. And he just kept going. And like, I just, every time he like asked a question, I'd go, no. And then he just finished. And then he was like, okay. And I was like, all right. And then I was like, cool, I got out of my, and so, but I was not that guy. I was not someone that
was that a one-on-one tank order more than chapel?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I've done 1,600 chapels in the last 15 years, and I have to tell you, I have people there, I know they don't want to be there. Yeah, right? I mean, I know it. They're just getting out, right?
Yeah.
But I've also seen the beauty of the Lord's entrapment.
Yes.
You came for one reason, right?
Now you're here for this.
And the Lord is going to get you. And I've seen time and time again people who don't want to be there. And He just uses it because, that's how He is so great. I mean, He can just do what He wants.
He has one thing he'll be like, okay, now I'll just use that too.
Now, when you finally got out, right?
Yeah.
You're still in Oklahoma.
Still in Oklahoma, so I got out of prison. and I had more charges waiting on me in Oklahoma County. So the county jail did this really nice thing. They drove all the way out to the prison to get me and gave me a free ride back to Oklahoma City. And so but it was to go right back to county jail. So I get put back in county jail, and I get charged just a couple more charges. Not even anything. So like, it wasn't like, I was never that guy that had these like mastermind criminal charges. I'd never had any like just really cool like, but I was just, all of my charges were like petty possession, minor possession, but I had a lot of them. And so I go back to Oklahoma County, again, got a minor possession. And all of it started because the girl that I was with when I got arrested had drugs on her, and I had grown up with a code that you don't let your woman take a charge for you. And so I was like, hey, whatever you have, just stick it underneath your seat. I'm already going to prison. I'll just take it. So had I not done that, when I got out of prison after that 5, I would have not had any charges.
Let me just say my experience. Oh my gosh, I've been on women's yards, and a lot of gals are taking hits for their guys.
Yeah,
that code is about as worthless.
I found that out later.
Yeah,
guys were like, "You were dumb," but yeah. So, but it all worked out in the end because I had to take this other charge, so I had to go back to Oklahoma County, and that's where things started to get a little bit better. But there was, my life ended up taking a turn before things got really good. But I had this, so I had this lawyer, just got out of law school. She'd only been out of law school like 6 months. She's got like 30 cases because she's a public defender. I'm looking at 8 years because this little 1.5 year charge, because I've been to prison twice. I didn't really do any time the first time, but it doesn't matter to the courts. The courts are like, well, you're a 2-time loser. This is your 3rd time. So this 1.5 year charge has turned into like an 8 to 12 year charge for just minor possession. And she's like, look, I don't know what to do. So my mom flies out to see me because she's moved out of the state of Oklahoma to get away from me. So my mom moves to Arizona to get away from me because I was killing her from the stress in Oklahoma, and I'm a grown man at this point, in my 30s. And she flies out to visit me, and she says, well, there's this thing that these people came and knocked on my door and told me about. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and she's like, well, it's a rehab. I was like, yeah. And then so we're talking through the glass with phones, and she says it's a year-long rehab. It's a Christian program. And I was like, well, I'm going to stop you right there. I was like, I don't think I want to do some cult thing. I don't care about what's Jesus going to do. And because I had just gotten out of prison where it was so comfortable, I was like, I could do another 8 because I'll only do half of it. I'll do like 4 years of it. It was easy. And so I literally was in this place where I was like, I'd rather go back to prison for 4 years on an 8 than actually go to a year-long program, if that was even possible. So my mom hung up the phone and just walked out and just left. But she talked to my lawyer about it, told my lawyer about it. And my lawyer just went and talked to the DA. The DA knew me by name, and the DA was not happy with me because the DA had basically written me off as going to be just like another one of my dad, and didn't want me to have to be in and out of the system. Was like, I just want to put him away and get rid of him, get him off my books. But my lawyer started talking to him and made this, and then this crazy deal happened, and I thought everything was going to be great because I was like, okay, the judge said you can leave Oklahoma and go to this rehab. We won't put you in prison. But we're going to release you, and you have to get there yourself. You have to figure out how to get there yourself. So I was like, great. And then I get out, and I realize it's harder and more difficult, more hoops than I need to. Like, I got to get accepted by Arizona. I got to go see a PO, which I've never done in my life. And I got to get there. Started using meth 2 days after I got out. Went right back to it, the worst than I'd ever been doing it. I was using I was up to using like 3.5 grams to an 8 ball of meth a day. I was just using as much as good. It was the first time in my life that the self-centered thing you were talking about, it was the first time in my life that didn't work. So I was using all these drugs, and it just made me miserable. And it just made me more miserable. And it just made me more miserable. It just got to a place where
this is your first time this has happened.
So I've been doing drugs for about 15 years at this point. And this is the first time in my life that drugs actually made me feel worse and not help me escape from feeling worse. And I felt miserable and hated myself. And every time I did drugs, I hated myself more. And every time I did drugs, I hated myself more. And this went on for about 2 months while I was waiting to try and come to Arizona. Meanwhile, I'm going to my PO like I'm supposed to, because I'm not going to go back to prison for not going to a PO. And every week I'd show up, and every week my PO would be like, let's go take a drug test. And I'd be like, hey, I can't pass. And she'd pull me into her office, and she'd go, okay, look, if I fail you on a drug test, all of this stuff that you've got set up and trying to work on is over. You're going back to prison. And then she's like, so just come in, can you get clean and come in next week? And I said, yeah, I can pass the drug test next week, no problem. Yeah, I got it. I'd show up the next week. We did this for like 5 straight weeks.
You're coming in dirty.
Every week. And just progressively, as the weeks go on, I'm getting worse and worse. I started out weighing about 170 pounds when I first got out of prison, and I'm sliding down over 5-6 weeks all the way to 130 pounds. Wow. So I'm looking like a champ, I'm showing up looking like a skeleton. And on the last time I showed up, she was just like, okay, you're obviously dirty. And she sat there and stared at me probably for about 30 seconds. I felt like it was 4 minutes. And she just goes, why do you keep showing up? And I was like, because if I don't show up, you're going to send me back to prison. She's like, I'm going to send you back to prison anyways. I was like, but not for not showing up. I'm a drug addict. I just remember telling her, I was like, I'm a drug addict, and I know everyone in Oklahoma that makes or does drugs, and I'm never going to get clean here. And if I don't leave Oklahoma, I'm going to die. And so she said, you're either going to go to prison or go to Arizona on Monday, because by Friday, that was my deadline. And my mom knew some people here in Arizona that just didn't pull any strings for me, but just told the person that was in charge of it what I wanted to do here, instead of just the fact that I was some drug addict trying to come to Arizona. Because the last thing Arizona wants is more people that are addicted to meth at that time, because Arizona's got a big problem with it. And so I got the opportunity to leave, still doing drugs nonstop. Like I said, still, but now it's different than any time in my life, because I'm miserable. I mean, I did so many drugs the night before I loaded onto the plane to come to Arizona from Oklahoma. I thought I was going to kill myself. Like, I wasn't trying to kill myself, but I'm laying on the bed and my heart is beating so hard in my chest because I've done so much meth that I really thought it was just going to bust out of my chest. Like, I had this vision, like, when you watch that movie Aliens and the alien busts out. Yeah. So I just felt like that's going to be my heart. My heart's just going to go wham and just rip right out. And I was like, I'm going to die of drugs the day before I'm going to a rehab. Like, I made it all this way to die the day before I get on a plane to go to a rehab, but somehow I didn't. And I came in like a hot rock. I mean, an absolute hot rock.
Now, when you came into this place, this is a Christian rehab.
Yes.
God so far in your life has nothing to do with anything. You don't even know if you believe in him.
Oh, I knew I didn't believe in him. Like, it was no choice. Like, I knew I didn't.
So would you classify yourself as an atheist then at that time?
Yeah, so I was one of those things where I was one of those people that would say that God wasn't real, and in the same breath say, I hate God. And at the time, I was so far gone that I didn't even realize that I just said that I hated something that didn't exist. Yeah,
there's a lot of spiritual schizophrenia when you're doing the dope at this level, right?
Yeah.
But did you ever say, I don't believe in God, but I do believe in the devil?
No, it's one of those things where I didn't believe in any of it. It's one of those things where I just didn't believe that any of that stuff was real. I had gotten to a place in my life, honestly, where I felt like that all of that stuff was made up, and that when you died, you just went back in the earth and the worms ate your body, and that was it. And I just didn't believe in any of it. But because I thought all the other stuff, the stuff that I'd seen when I was high, and all the things I would see out of the corner of my eye, and all the stuff that I would imagine, I thought all that stuff was just the drugs, just making me loopy, and that's why I saw stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things where I was definitely not ready for it when I got here. Landed in Arizona, freaked out. There's so many people in the airport. I had gotten severely I was not comfortable around people, being in large groups, being in public. I'd gotten to a point in my life where just the thought of being in a room full of 20 people would make me physically sick. And I landed in an airport in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's 10,000 people in the airport, and I was like, if I can get back on this plane and leave, I'm going.
Wow. Well, listen, we're going to talk about this whole thing, and tomorrow on how he went from I don't believe in God to I believe in God. Amen. Unbelievable. Listen, don't forget to go out to BFF on Friday night if you're not doing anything from 5:30 to 6:15. Food, fellowship, and childcare provided. Then there are meetings afterwards, both for guys and for gals. Just hop out to their site, beyondfeartofreedom.org, get the address, times, and all the people that are involved. Until next time, I'm Steve Savant, and remember, no one's outside the reach of God. No, not one.